Let's learn how to use third-party libraries in our HTML files, or in other words, JavaScript code that other people have already written. And that includes CSS also. One library that we're going to go take a look at is called Loading-Bar. The address for Loading-Bar is loading.io/progress. And if you just leave the last slash off, it will still get there, so it's alright. So it's loading.io/progress. And that's an https://. Let me go ahead and show you that in a larger font just to make sure you can see that. So that's the URL that we're going to work with, https://loading.io/progress. So once you go to that website, you're going to find out there's some really cool things that you can do with the JavaScript that they have already written. And what it is they just say that this loading bar is a flexible JavaScript progress bar library. In other words, it's a visual way of seeing the details of how something is working. And for instance, here's a circle and it's showing a progress bar of being loaded, a Chrome symbol, a fan, which is half a circle, or just a progress bar itself. And so these are different ways that you can give a visual indicator that something is happening. The first thing you need to do is click on the Download Now. So you'll click on that button and it will download a zip file to your computer. Once it's done, click on the arrow and do a Show in Folder, and you'll see that here is the zip file. Now what I want you to do is I need you to extract that zip file, and I need you to go put it in the folder where you're doing all of your work. In my situation, I have a Google Drive, and it's my IS 303 course, and my 2019, and you can go put whatever the folder is that you're working with. So go find that folder where you save all your work, and that's where I want you to extract those two files. And go ahead and click Extract. And I already have the files out there, so I'm not going to worry about replacing them, but you'll go ahead and just store those files, and you should now have a loading-bar.css file and a loading-bar.javascript file, .js. So you should have two loading bars out in your folder. Now that you have those files out in your folder, I want you to create a brand new file. I called mine test loadbar.html. And in the test loadbar.html, I have the following HTML code. And the way I started that, in fact, I'll go ahead and show you once again. You've seen it in other videos. But what I did is you just type HTML and then down arrow, choose 5. And then in my case, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of this information that I don't really need. And so we have our doc type, our head, and our body. Now in order for us to use those two files we just downloaded, we need to have a link to the CSS file, and that CSS file is the loading-bar.css, and that will bring in the cascading style sheet for the loading bar. And then we also want to bring in the JavaScript code that the loading bar was written for you. And so you'll do a script tag and then link to, using the src tag, that loading-bar.js. Now remember, these are in the same folder as where our file is. If you had them in a different folder, you'd have to specify the path. Now that we have the loading-bar.js and the loading-bar.css file in it, we can start working with the loading bar itself in the body section. So let's go take a look at the website and see what we have here. The reason I'm showing this to you is because I need you to learn how to Google and learn new technologies. So let's take a look at this website, and we see that there's different types of progress bars we can use, and they give us some samples. And of course they say it's easy to use, and all we have to do is bring in some type of loading bar class into our HTML. So if I just took this code from the website and pasted it back over here into our body, and I did a file save, and then I went ahead and did a go live on it, it might not work. Let's see. Well, it does work. You can't really see the bar, but it's a 0% bar, and we see something show up. So that's pretty interesting to us, that we can actually just type in some type of code in a div and bring in that information. Let's take a look at this, actually this data preset. Let's back up a little bit. We could actually use these different types of presets that they have for us. We can do a circle preset, a bubble preset, a line preset, or a fan preset. And then we show the percent of something that's happening. Let's scroll down just a little bit, and let's take a look at what we have to use. So in the installation, it says you need to bring in the CSS file, which we did. You need to bring in the JS file, which we did. Here's that loading bar, but the one thing we left off was an attribute called data value. So let's go back to your code and add the attribute data value on that same line. So now we're saying we want to use a div tag, and in that div tag we want to point it to the LD bar class, which I bet if I opened up loadingbar.css, which here's where it is, and if I did a search and I tried to find the LD bar, in fact, there it is. We have LD bar class, and the LD bar class in that CSS file has a bunch of information similar to attributes specifying the position, the top coordinate, the left coordinate, and the size, and all this different information on the bar that we want to display. So that's where we're referencing this class LD bar. It's coming from the loading-bar CSS. Now that we set a data value of 50, let's see what that means for us. So we said create a div, use the loading bar for that div, and have a value of 50. Let's run it. And if you notice, here's the bar, there's our percentage, and it's 50. So the 50 data value is a percent that's displayed, plus it also shows how much of the bar to fill in. Let's go take a look at more information. Now what we could do is we could actually make this a little more dynamic, where we could go ahead and specify the ID, and instead of specifying the data value as an attribute, let's just copy this script tag, come back over to here, let's give that loading bar an ID, and let's call it my item. And you can call it anything you want. Actually, let's call it my item 1. You can call it anything you want. And let's put this script tag in. And what this script tag now says to do is when the JavaScript runs, it's going to create a variable called bar1. You could have called it anything. And it's going to be a new object of type LD bar. And it's going to be based upon my item 1. And then we create bar2. And we say go get my item 1.ld bar, and then we actually say bar1.set 60. Now let's see what this actually means for us. Let's go ahead and run this, see what happens. If you notice, did you see what happened with the percentage? It's actually a growing percentage now. What would happen if I got rid of this line, the bar2? And let's run that one more time. Still works, and that's because this line that they gave us in the code, the bar2, didn't really do anything for us. It's that bar1 that says create a variable, a new loading variable, using the class or the ID my item 1, and then we set that bar, which is that bar right here, to have a 60%. Watch what happens if I did 30%. Or let's do 100. 100%. Let's save that. We don't need that line. Let's go and run it one more time. And it's a full bar now of 100%. So this is a way that you can actually use that loading bar and have JavaScript to dynamically show the percentage value. So let's see what else we could do. So here's our code, and we have our bar. We created a brand new bar object using the myItem1. We set the percentage to 100. What else can we do over here? Well, we can do different types of styles. So let's take a look at this one. We could do a div. Let's copy this code. Whoops, make sure we got it all. I do. Come back over to here, and instead of this div, we're going to paste in a brand new div. And I'll put this up here just so you're not confused as to what's going on. And let's put that there. And that closes off that div. And let's go ahead and remove our script for a minute. So now we said let's create a brand new div of a loading bar. We're going to put the label of the loading bar in the center of the bar. Here's the style we're going to use, 50% width and height, margin auto. The data value, remember that's percentage, is 35. And we're going to use a preset circle. Now remember, we talked about these presets just a minute ago. I said we have different presets we could have used besides that bar. We have a preset circle, bubble, line, and fan. By default, we were using the line. So let's go try the circle and see what happens now. We'll go ahead and save that, run it, and notice it made a circle, and it said 35% in the middle, and there's our percentage of what we have done. I could say let's go make it 65%. Let's run it one more time and see what the data value does. That data value is the percentage of the fill. Percentage of the fill that you're seeing. Let's come back over to here. Let's go try the bubble instead and see what happens. So instead of circle, let's change that to be a bubble. Now remember, these loading bars we're putting inside of a div. And we're saying we need to use the class for that div to be that load bar. So let's go run this one more time. And we're going to use 65%. And there's our 65% line, and it's showing bubbles, which is a little annoying. We could also do the fan, and all you have to do is change your data preset. So that's fairly easy to change the image you want to use, the preset image that they have, and changing the percentage. The other thing we could do is we could override the CSS that they already have. For instance, I could take this CSS, bring it into here, and let's just put that CSS in a style tag in our head. And we're saying for the loading bar label, we want it to be red, that font, that size, that weight. Let's go run it one more time and see the difference. Now we have a red font for the label. Remember before it was black. And so by using styling, you can actually change how some of the things look in that loading bar. Let's go see what else we can do. Let's try this one as ESPN goes off in the background. Let's show what the fan looks like. Let's go ahead and change this div, and we'll go ahead and use their fan sample. And I'm not, well, yes I am. I'm going to go ahead and make it look a little bit nicer than what they had, just so that we can see the code a little bit better. We're going to say do a fan, put the label in the center, do the data value of 35, and let's see if the color turns off red. In fact, maybe we could change that. Maybe we could say blue instead. Change it to be blue. Let's go run it one more time. And there's our label center. Now it's a big font. Why is that? Because in our styling we said make it that size of a font. We can see the fan there. And that means that what we've done with our CSS, with the font size and the font weight, we've changed how that label looks. So be aware you can use the style and change how it looks. Let's go ahead and get rid of that style. If I ran it one more time now, we'd probably see it go back to the normal nice looking font size with the fan. And now we have the font inside the label. So that's something you have to be careful of when working with these. Here's the different presets you have that you can work with: energy, stripe, text, bubble, circle, fan, line, rainbow. And all you have to do is specify the data preset. Let's go see if we can do something different now. Instead of using the presets, this is saying that I can use an SVG, scaled vector graphic path. And so I could say something like this. Let's copy this code, come over to here, paste it in. We're going to make it look a little bit better, more readable. And then if you notice, we're saying we're going to do a div with the class LD-Bar, label center. The data type will be a stroke. The data path is this. Now, what we need to do on that data path is we actually need to copy all of these points. That's the path of the points to be drawn on your screen. So there's the path. We'll save that. Whoops, I pressed the wrong key, sorry. There's the path that we're going to do. And let's go ahead and run that and see what happens when we change the data path attribute for the loading bar. If you notice, now that's a heart. And those are the points in that path specified right here. The stroke said just draw a line. If you notice, it was a 0%. And that's because we probably still have to specify the value for that heart. Now if you remember up here, we said you just specify the value by saying data value. Let's go try that. Let's take data value as a string and come back over to here, and let's specify data value as an attribute on that heart. And we said 35%. Let's see what happens now when we run it. And now you can see it's starting to draw 35%. Why does it look that way? Because we said we want an LD bar. The label's going to be in the center. There's the center. We said the type is a stroke. Stroke means drawing. The data path means all the points. That's what makes this heart. But remember, we had other data paths because we had presets. And the presets probably mean they already have data paths built into it. And then the data value is the percentage. Let's change stroke to be fill and see what happens. And now it starts to fill it percent-wise. There's 35%. What would happen if we came over here and we said 100% and run it one more time? And exactly what you thought. It would draw the heart. Now, my heart is showing red. Yours probably is not showing red. You're going to need to figure that out for our homework assignment, and I'm going to give you a hint. I probably changed something in one of my files. Here's my Loading-Bar.js. Maybe there's something in my Loading-Bar.js that said I can specify what color I use when I want to go and draw something. So maybe take a look at this code and see if there's something you need to change in one of those files, whether it's the Loading-Bar CSS or the Loading-Bar .js to see what you need to change. And as a hint, I'll let you know you need to modify your JS file and look for the color red, which is going to be a capital FF0000. And so when you search through your file, you might be able to find some place in this file that specifies CSS being used to draw the fill color using an FF0000, and you can change that to be something else, a different color. Like if you wanted green, it'd be 00FF00. And that's why mine is red and yours I think is probably purple. So this is how you can use the loading bar and do some cool things and show what's happening with progress in your program.